Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:07, it's Monday morning. Hello. I always feel like everyone's holding their breath saying, did they show up today? Did they show up? Did they make it through the snow? Are they sick? Are they good? Of course we're fine. No one's on vacation. We're ready to go. It's O'Connor and Company. Bethany Mandel here in for Julie Gunlock, who is still on the mend and doing great every day, I'm told. Bethany, good morning to you, young lady.
Good morning, Larry. What a pleasure to be here, even if it is terrible outside.
It is nasty. And we have a break in the weather coming up. Tomorrow, it's actually going to get above freezing for the first time in like 10 days, which is pretty amazing. We have lots of ice talk, lots of school closure talk still, as local governments can't get their act together. We've got more anti-ice conversation. We've got a partial shutdown. We've got the Grammys coming up at 6:35. We're going to talk about Groundhog Day, because today's Groundhog Day. At 7:05, Joe DeGenova will be our guest. And at 8:05, Peter Schweitzer's got a brand new book, once again, New York Times bestseller. This one, The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. Well, that's timely. All right, Bethany Mandel, here's the story. We still have an ice and snow problem in the nation's capital, and it's not just here in D.C. You know, last week I was making the case, how come other cities have their act together? You don't see this problem in other cities. Well, apparently there's one other major city that is having this, not Baltimore. Baltimore is actually not bad, and the roads up north of Washington, D.C., not too bad. I drove some of them this weekend. And Philadelphia seems to be okay. But then when you go further north, to the other Marxist city on the East Coast, New York City, they're in a deadlock as well. People are screaming and complaining. There's deaths in the street. And here in D.C., there's no deaths that I'm aware of, but it's not good. It's not good. And people are still unable to get around. People are complaining, but they're not actually complaining in the direction where it deserves to receive those complaints, and that is to the one-party rule that we enjoy here in D.C. and in Northern Virginia and Montgomery County, Maryland.
Yep, no, absolutely. I mean, I think really on the schools front, it comes down to the fact that schools are not essential. And we were told that was communicated very clearly during COVID. And so, bus stops and sidewalks and all of the things that needed to be cleared in order for these schools to open safely has not happened. And I really feel for public school parents because I don't know what the end game is here in Montgomery County, at least. This is where I live. I drove around from Silver Spring to Potomac yesterday, and I barely saw sidewalks open. And so if the metric is sidewalks are cleared and bus stops are open and kids can walk, I don't know when or how the school's open.
Right. Well, and it's funny because I feel like this hasn't always been the case. I feel like school was essential at some point. I remember at some point, the teachers' unions suggesting, when they go on strike, the teachers' unions, all you hear about is how horrible it is that kids aren't in school and that how this is a burden on everybody. But now we're going on 8 days now that the schools are shut down. Also, remember the whole thing about if we don't keep the schools open, then children are going to starve because parents are so neglectful that they refuse to feed their children. And by the way, in Fairfax County, they are or is this Fairfax or Arlington County? Hang on. Yeah, it's FCPS. They have set up breakfast, lunch, snack, and supper provided to all kids between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Wait, so they're providing meals for kids and their parents to come and get them, but they can't open the schools for the kids to come and learn.
I think a lot of it comes down to liability, honestly. And in Montgomery County, at least one kid has died by getting hit by a bus this year. I think it might even be more than that. I think it comes down to liability. And, driving around, seeing these enormous piles of ice that are so hard to get through, and I don't know when they're going to be able to get through them. The strategy just seems to be waited out, but we have one 40-degree day this week. That's it. It's not going to do it. There's no way that kids can walk around on a sidewalk for I don't even know. I mean, at least I'm looking at the 7-day forecast, not for the next 7 days.
Okay, so who's closed here? Because this is what's weird to me. In the same region, you've got some schools open and some schools closed. So Fairfax County canceled the classes for today. Montgomery County canceled classes, but I know that Prince George's County was open like by Thursday of last week on a delay.
DC Anne Arundel was on a delay. DC is on a delay.
Loudoun is open today, but on a delay. And you get, and I really, well, you know, Fairfax County has rural areas. Loudoun has way more rural areas than Fairfax does, but they were able to get their act together.
Yeah. I mean, I think at least here in Montgomery County, the problem, first of all, is that the county is too big. They need to break it into pieces when it comes to school closures because Upper Montgomery and Lower Montgomery are two very separate places. But there's a lot of kids who walk along the sidewalk to get to the bus stop, and there's no sidewalk. It does not exist. I don't know when sidewalks will exist. So I think that's a problem. But I think also, you know, I heard from some parents that their kids' special ed buses couldn't drive down their street. And this is true on my street. I don't know how I'm going to get my garbage picked up. They haven't plowed enough width to allow cars to park and a bus or a garbage truck to drive through. So this is a real countywide problem that they haven't done enough.
And once again, so here's what all of these jurisdictions have in common. It's completely run by one party, and they know that they've got a lock on power. And, you know, time and time, if coming out of COVID and all the CRT and trans policies that these schools set up and the county council members or supervisors, if you're in Virginia, set up, didn't have them lose their seat on the boards, then nothing will. And they know that they once they win, they're in. And it doesn't matter how incompetent they are, they've got their power. And so whenever you're an elected official and you're responsible for things like this and you know that you can screw up and still keep your seat, this is what you do. This is what you do. This is what happens when you have one-party rule.
Yeah, I want Ron DeSantis to come down here.
Yes, thank you.
The radical competence.
That would sort of fix things up. He knows how to use government and get stuff done.
Yep.
By the way, there is one sunny side in D.C. We've noticed that this is either by accident or absolutely deliberate. Either way, it's brilliant. Snowplows, and I'm guessing members of the community, have been moving snow out of the road. And, you know, you create these little mini Mount Everests right on the corners as you move the snow and ice into an area. And in many cases, the giant little, you know, Matterhorns that have been created, these snow berms that will stay until April at this point, happen to be piled up right in front of DC speed cameras. I'm sure that's just a coinky-dink. Yeah, right?
Coinky-dink. I love it. I love it. I
would be out there, you know, handing a couple of 20s to the snowplow guy saying, come on, just a little to the left. Just a little to the left. Come on, man.
I will say this for DC. They're actually organizing volunteers as well. So, you know, why is D.C. on a 2-hour delay in Montgomery County and Fairfax and Arlington closed? They've actually, you know, tried to marshal some manpower into clearing the sidewalks.
Well, and actually I saw great images of the National Guard out there helping to clear out the sidewalks and the driveways and the roads in front of some of the D.C. public schools. It's interesting to me. You know who I didn't see out there helping them? Sandwich guy. You know, the guy in his little Vineyard Vines pink shorts who threw a Subway sandwich at the National Guardsmen because they wanted National Guard out of D.C. because they're Nazi fascists. So there's your Nazi fascists opening up the schools in D.C. You know, that's not what they were hired to do, but they're there because they care about the community. Where was Sandwich guy clearing out the school for the D.C. kids?
That's a great question. It's a
Didn't
great question.
See that. That's okay.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Meanwhile, up in New York, it's turned deadly. And the warmth of collectivism, Bethany, is not sitting well with New Yorkers of all economic stratas. It's bad. You've got cars that have been locked in, similar to D.C., since the snowstorm began. The streets are lucky to have just one lane open. I remember the day after the snowstorm, there were people out on social media saying, oh, what's the right wing and all the MAGA types going to say? Because here, Mamdani got the streets plowed in just one day. No, well, not so fast, folks. It's bad up there. Garbage has piled up for over a week because the garbage trucks and sanitation teams can't get in. That's a problem in New York City. If the rats weren't frozen in their tracks, they'd be all over. Although my guess is there are rats living in the warmth of collectivism at the bottom of those trash piles. It's ugly. The New York Post is writing about it as well. And, by the way, it's deadly because you'll remember right before the snowstorm, when Mamdani took over, when we were still basking in the glow of collectivism, he announced a new policy there in Manhattan.
That he's done since the start of his administration. Thousands of sweeps have happened since 2024, but no one has been offered permanent housing. And I think the data from May was 114 were offered in shelter. Will you continue this week? They were asking you not to.
Okay, the reporter is off mic. I'm sorry about that. But it had to do with Mamdani's policy to ban the clearing of homeless encampments throughout Manhattan. The prior administration was enforcing their criminal vagrancy laws and clearing up the streets of all of these vagrants and getting them to shelters, and the policy that Rudy Giuliani had set up. It's still law in Manhattan, but it's been ignored under Bill de Blasio and for half of Eric Adams until he came to his sentence. Mamdani then ordered an end to the clearing of all of these homeless encampments. One snowstorm later, 13 people are dead in the streets of New York because of the compassion of the Marxist mayor.
Yeah. I mean, this is pretty standard for liberals when it comes to the homelessness crisis. They view it as, more empathetic and more caring of these people to let them, keep their freedom and keep them on the streets. But especially when it's 12 degrees outside, the empathetic thing to do is to arrest them and to put them in prison where it's warm and where they have 3 meals a day. And this is the issue with when you've allowed your, mental illness, I guess, to overcome your common sense. Yeah. People should not be outside in 12 degrees. That's not kind. Well, but they can't see over that.
You're 1,000% right, but I would extend it to this. People should not be living on the streets no matter what the temperature is. No matter when it's too hot, it's not good for them. When it's too cold, it's not good for them. But guess what? If the temperature were perfect, it's still not good for them. We have learned in Western civilization for basic public sanitary and safety reasons that people should not be allowed to live on the streets. It's bad. It's bad for them and it's bad for the rest of us. But their compassion now has resulted in these deaths. By the way, real fast, if we can swing back to Northern Virginia for a second, you're going to love this. A very famous Northern Virginia resident took to social media to complain about the continued delays in schools. Let me write what she said. It's a she. I'll go ahead and throw the pronoun out. Wrapping my head around schools in Virginia being closed for another day when it hasn't snowed in a week. And this is what it was like making our way to school growing up in the Northeast. And she put in a little gif of people, trudging in the snow in waist-high weather, which is true. I grew up in Detroit, and that's how you would get to school. Guess who that is complaining about the incompetence and the lack of leadership and basic management in Northern Virginia? That would be Jen Psaki. Jen Psaki, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's because her kid's school is closed, and so all of a sudden she cares.
Right.
That's it.
Oh, this is awful. Yes.
Mm-hmm. This is what it took to get liberals to care about school closures. Right. Was they
I think
had
you're
to
right.
keep their kids out.
During COVID, we all got the message. Our kids and our schools are not essential, not important. They can wait. By the way, I believe the teachers union and members of everyone on the budget as a teacher administrator, I think they're still getting paid. Just saying. It's 5:23. All right, keep it here. We've got much more to get to, including Gavin Newsom. He got the Annie Leibovitz treatment, has a whole Vogue spread, and the photographs, the story, they're just trying so hard. We'll get it all for you coming up in a moment. It's O'Connor and Company with Larry and Bethany.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
And it's 5:37, and we're plowing through this Monday morning's news cycle. I'm glad somebody's plows are working. Am I right? Thanks for tuning in to O'Connor and Company. Later in this program, we're going to speak at 6:35 with Aaron Deneau of the DuPont Festival. What's that? Well, they have a little Groundhog Day Potomac Phil thing going on. 7:05. It's too cold for that, by the way. If everyone's going out to do the whole Groundhog Day thing. Come on. 7:05, Joe DeGeneva will join us. And at 8:05, Peter Schweitzer, brand new book, The Invisible Coup, How American Elites and Foreign Powers Use Immigration as a Weapon. That's all coming up. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning.
So they're really trying to make Gavin Newsom a thing. And he is the front runner. He's raising the money. He's got the highest profile. I have no doubt that they're going to nominate him. I think it's a bad idea for Democrats. It's just too easy to run against what a disaster California is. And also, by the way, I mean, it was kind of effective with Kamala Harris, even though, did you notice how Kamala Harris tried to remove herself from California because even she recognized California is so unpopular? Like, for instance, when she gave some of her most stirring speeches in D.C., that one speech she gave in front of the White House, at the Ellipse, she didn't make her big announcement that she was running in front of the Golden Gate Bridge or anything. She barely even went to California except to raise money. Gavin Newsom, it's going to be impossible for him to attempt to do that. They're doing their best to rehabilitate him because, generally speaking, people think that he's phony, a fraud, slimy, sleazy, and he looks like, as Secretary Bessent said, a cross between the mass murderer and American Psycho and a Sparkle Beach Malibu Ken doll.
So they're leaning really hard into that Malibu Ken doll with this new Vogue photo shoot that Annie Leibovitz did. I will let you.
No,
take the lead
I
on
need you to read.
Thank God.
I'm
cannot so excited
read.
that you did that. I'm so
excited
that you did that.
I cannot read the first paragraph because it's just I can't do it. You're better at it. Here's the opening paragraph of the Vogue article about Gavin Newsom.
So I'm an only child, and so I desperately wanted to do this, but I gave it up to you, but I didn't want you to take it. I really want, so I appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Ready, guys? Let's buckle in. Let's get this out of the way. He is embarrassingly handsome, his hair seasoned with silver, at ease with his own eminence as he delivers his final State of the State address. And the photo that accompanies from Annie Leibovitz. So first of all, I thought the backdrop behind him was disaster scene, and I was like, that was a decision to make the California wildfires the background.
Right, the
but then
wildfires
I noticed,
with a homeless encampment. Yes.
Right. And then I noticed, no, it was just some trees. But he is staring smokily into the camera with his hand on his face, looking at you as if, you're wearing something else, maybe something less.
Right.
And that's probably the direction he was
lingerie.
Given.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Look at me like you want to have sex with me. And
you are so inappropriate at 5 o'clock in the morning, consistently.
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah, I get away with way too much at this hour. It's true. It is a very smoky. It's sultry. It's smoldering. Mm-hmm. Give me a smolder, Gavin. Smolder at me. The writer, by the way, who penned that opening sentence, let's get this out of the way. He is embarrassingly handsome. Her name is Maya Singer. Everybody, she should be very proud for her foray into journalism, political journalism. She's described as a arts and entertainment writer for Vogue.
So I will say he is kind of a hottie. No, as politicians go, he is kind of a hottie. But that's basically all he has going for him. Lord knows it's not his governance. What?
Well,
I
fear that for a huge portion of the electorate, that's enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would have been enough for my mom, honestly. My mom was one of those people. She, verbalized it very clear. She's like, I only vote for women unless it's a hot guy. And I'm like, that's an interesting metric, Mom. But I think Trump does that, too. He seems to choose hotties with a lot of frequency. So maybe that's the standard now to be, in government. You have to be attractive. You have to be at least a 7.
I've decided to take over the dramatic reading. Newsom's lanky frame was folded onto a sofa, a bit too low slung for him. This made him lean back, away from me. Or it could be that his body language had nothing to do with ergonomics and is a function of Newsom's quality of being at once gregarious and aloof. What is this, 50 Shades of Gavin? What is going on here?
I'm getting a real Olivia Newsy vibe from this writer.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, if it were me writing something like this, I would be thinking that I'm being haunted by the specter of Olivia Newsy, and maybe keep it in my pants a little bit. Maybe I would hold back, and maybe as an editor I would have done the same. Maybe I would have said, let's
this was all done before the whole Olivia Newsy thing blew up. Who knows? As he spoke, late summer sun slanted in through the windows, bathing Newsom in an California magic hour glow.
We're gonna have to put a warning label on the podcast when we put it up. Like this was not something to listen to around your children. We're sorry. 5 a.m. on a Monday. We're still a little tired, and so we did a little
Wait, listen to this.
Oh God.
I'd prepared for this sit-down by consuming the spectacle of Gavin Newsom and was having a hard time taking in the man, his actual molecular reality, immaculate. His molecular reality? This is how really... Here's the thing. It could have been Chris Hayes writing this. Could have been Kristen Welker writing this, or Margaret Brennan. This get ready, because this is how the media is going to rewrite the story of Gavin Newsom, and none of it will be about his actual what's the word I'm looking for? Record.
Policy.
His actual record. Yeah. It's 5:44.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Oh, that reminds me, a little programming note. I am filling in for Mark Levin tomorrow night and Wednesday night. Love me some Mark Levin. Always like sitting in his chair behind his mic.
Look at you go.
It makes for a long day. I'm not going to lie.
I was just thinking that. I was like, oh, God bless you.
Well, I think people think you get off the air and then you just like go about your regular life, which I don't know. You need a while to sort of wind down from being on the air too.
That must be nice. I jump right into parenting 6 children.
That's true. That's true. So we have a landmark ruling in a New York courtroom over the weekend. It's a decision, actually, an award in a civil suit that could actually begin the entire house of cards that is gender mutilation, called gender reassignment procedures, to come tumbling down. A detransitioner has won a $2 million lawsuit against New York doctors who pushed this poor woman into getting a double mastectomy. The New York Post has this story. A 22-year-old woman who identified as a boy in her teen years won a $2 million decision in a landmark lawsuit against New York doctors accused of pushing a double mastectomy on her when she was a minor. Fox Varian had the life-altering surgery when she was just 16 years old. I'm sorry, I was told that this wasn't happening to children and to minors. Getting approval from a psychologist and a surgeon, both of whom a jury found liable of medical malpractice on January 30th. Varian, now 22, considered a detransitioner, was awarded $1.6 million for past and future pain and suffering, and an additional $400,000 for future medical expenses. The first detransitioner malpractice lawsuit in the nation to go to trial and win. Bethany, this is huge, but it seems to me that judgment is a little low, frankly. But yeah. I think it's the first of many.
I read a book called Stolen Youth. It came out 3 years ago, actually, and I spoke to so many gender people who were in this world, but who were doubters, who were people who were skeptics, and every single one of them said this house of cards falls when the lawsuits start. And so I've been waiting for this for years. because this has introduced the variable that everyone has said is missing, which is accountability.
Yes.
The doctors and the psychiatrists, everyone in this ecosystem has a financial interest in mutilating children and mutilating young people with severe mental distress. Yeah. And now
it's just so horrible to even hear that phrase uttered, but it's so true.
But now that math doesn't math anymore, because the malpractice insurance is going to be such that they actually have to do their due diligence and make sure these people are going to be benefited by being physically mutilated. And narrator, there's not many people who are benefited by being physically mutilated. This is not a thing that helps the vast majority of humans on this earth.
Well said. And you're right. So far, there's been big money, big profit. People have gotten rich off of these procedures. As soon as you change that delta and flip it upside down, and it ends up being very, very, very expensive, to start talking parents into allowing this to happen, because that's sort of the missing element here, is that parents have been pressured for years. I have spoken to these parents who said a doctor looked me in the eyes and said that if I didn't give the green light for my teenager to be surgically altered forever and have perfectly healthy organs lopped off of their body, if I didn't go ahead with that, then my child would kill herself.
Yep.
What is a parent supposed to do with that kind of psychological and emotional manipulation? And yes, people were making a ton of money off of it.
Yeah. And now, God willing, that's over. And there can be some real accountability, because there have been people who have made many millions of dollars doing this to people who are mentally unstable and unwell, and who are unable to give consent because they're not capable. They're not mentally with it enough to do that. But I think, I tweeted this last week, and I read it actually during a commercial break. There was an incredible piece in the Free Press from a lesbian woman who was fired from her job in, I think it was the Attorney General's office in New York State, for being a gender skeptic. And what it comes down to for a lot of these people is that they're gay. And they're being subjected to sterilizing conversion therapy. And why the gay and lesbian community are not vociferously defending the youth of their community is beyond me, because so many of them go on to have children, to want children, and there will be an entire generation of them who are scarred for life and who are left infertile by these quote-unquote treatments.
Well, let's just hope this is the beginning of a trend here that will not only bankrupt the people who have gotten rich off of this demented sort of medieval torture process. And I'm not overstating the case. A top surgery is a great euphemism for a double mastectomy, which is horrible and just tragic. But when you start talking about the procedures that happen below the belt, these are barbaric. These are absolutely barbaric. Do a little research. I literally cannot get into it on this program without either crossing the line of impropriety or, frankly, nauseating people at 5:54 in the morning. But it needs to end, and this is how it ends. God bless this jury. It's 5:54.